Welcome to the Green Tea Bakery. I'm your host, Christine, and in this Green Light Path series, I interview entrepreneurs, creatives, and overall ambitious people about their dreams and goals, to then interview them again in 3 years and see the progress. Stay tuned to see the journey unfold. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Green Tea Bakery. This is your host, Christine, and today I'm here with the Queen of Cakes. You might not have seen her yet, but you've probably seen her cakes on CNL or just online. Welcome to the creative and culinary genius, the creator of Saint Street Cakes, Morgan Knight. Welcome, Morgan.
Thank you so much for having me on, Christine. I'm very excited to be here.
I'm very excited to dive into your story, you as a person, how you approach life and everything, because I find it very inspiring to see how you take a passion and, turn it into your business, into your life. I wanted to ask you, what's something that brought you joy today, particularly?
I would say, actually, I've been really into getting more intentional with whatever kitchenware I'm buying, and I just got this. It actually matches what we're both wearing today, but it's a little carafe. And so I've just been drinking water out of this all day. I'm actually going to pour myself, but I would say fun kitchenware is definitely it. I got this. I got some vintage mugs, so I would say that.
Amazing. I love it. Elevates the experience of drinking water,
Exactly. It makes everything a little more fun to have fun dishware.
Exactly. To start off, what context from your earliest life defines you the most, you feel like, today?
I think I grew up in a really creative household, and so I think it was always really encouraged. I grew up with one sister, and we're very close in age, and our parents always really encouraged us to be super artistic. There was always just art supplies out on tables very intentionally, so we could just kind of do whatever. And my parents both had creative careers, so I think it's always just growing up in a creative house with that kind of mindset, I think has definitely had the biggest impact on what I've done with my job and just I think who I am as a person too.
I love it when it's super supported and you also have the example of your parents following their creative careers and passions, and also your sister, you said. Where did this passion for baking come from? Was it something that you were inspired by someone who was always doing it, or I don't know, you were watching something, or how did this even start?
It's pretty random and honestly has been around since before I can fully remember. The furthest back I can trace it is from movies and TV. I think seeing cartoons with just a bunch of food, whether that's the Studio Ghibli movies or Disney movies with the huge, there's that cake in Sleeping Beauty, or the second Little Mermaid movie, there's a huge cake. And I think seeing people bake in cartoons excited me so much. And I always thought that it would be exactly like that when I did it in real life. And so I think honestly it comes from watching cartoons. My parents both aren't bakers, so pretty random.
So you just saw beautiful food and you thought this is cool, I must try.
Make that. Yeah.
Cool. Such a cool inspiration source. And back then, when you were little, when you were really into baking and food, did it seem like an option for you back then to be a full-time baker and do this, in your 20s? Was that a vision that you had, yes, that's what I really want to do, or it just kind of happened along the way?
When I was really young, so I think I started being really interested in baking when I was about 6, and was that's when I started baking, but was interested in it before, but started baking with my mom and my grandmother when I was about 6. I think I took my first and only ever cake class when I was 9 years old, and at that time was full steam ahead, I want to open a bakery, a cake shop. And then it kind of waned over the years. I just started hearing about how hard it is to own a restaurant and what a nightmare that seems. And then I got really into politics and law. And so that on its own seems like a way more reliable career choice. So I just kind of went along that path and kept baking on the side. So even then, though, the dream was always, I'll be a lawyer for 40 years and then I'll retire and open a bakery. Even when I was planning to be a lawyer, that's always what I said. So no matter what, I knew I wanted to eventually do something in food and baking.
It would have been also great if you'd done this when you were retired, but it's even more amazing that you get to do this now and not have to wait for the years to start. But back then, was that a possibility in your head? Did it, I guess maybe because you were saying that you grew up in a very creative household and people who turned their creative passions into some work-related things. So did it theoretically seem like a possibility for you? Was it encouraged? Was that a option to become a baker for you back then?
Yeah, as a kid, 100%. My parents' creative careers were in the film industry. My mom did set design and now does interior design. My dad did set contracting and architecture stuff and now does something similar. And so as a kid, I don't remember my parents ever saying that's something you can't do, which was really, really great. My sister and I were raised with needed to get good grades. It was a pretty strict household, but at the same time, there was never a point where they were saying, my sister's a photographer. They never said like, you can't do that. That's not a real career. Or I wanted to be an actor when I was like 12. And they were like, sure, yeah, as long as you go to college. So I think that was kind of the main thing. They wanted us to get a good education. Neither of them went to college. But after that, they were kind of like, all bets are off. You can do anything. Like anything you set your mind to, you can do. And I think I didn't realize growing up how unique that was. So I'm very grateful to have that. Definitely.
It's so beautiful to get the encouragement, but also some structure and guidance to be like, yes, of course, but get your education. But that's really, really amazing. That was always an option. You said you got really into law and politics at some point. So how that shift came around? Because that's also what you studied, right? So that was a good chunk of your growing up period.
I think it goes back to as far as elementary school. I think through reading, I've always been a huge reader. I remember in third or fourth grade, my librarian would always give me, like at my school, would always give me books that she just thought I'd like. And she gave me To Kill a Mockingbird. And I remember being really intrigued by Atticus, like being a lawyer and helping someone. And then I learned about the suffragette movement in fifth grade, chose to do a project on that. And I was just really interested in like law and politics and specifically like justice through those things. So continued just reading about them, being interested in it through middle school. And then in high school, got really into speech and debate and started like a club at my high school where we collected like pads and tampons for people that menstruate like all over California. And so we would like send those to different shelters and stuff in Los Angeles. And so just continued being interested in politics. I honestly think it was pretty naturally inclined for me. It's kind of random. My parents aren't super political people, but I just really liked learning about, I think, helping people through those kind of methods. And so I went to college studying women's gender sexuality studies, law, politics, and Jewish studies. Focused my entire thesis and stuff on reproductive justice and Roe v. Wade and everything. So I was really, really in it.
I love that you took the interest for this and then found your own way, reproductive justice, as you were saying, and really from school on onto university. And I love that you also created your own major, combining all those different things that you really liked. Yeah, that's amazing that you did the most out of this. What would you say was kind of your biggest takeaway from that period of your life where you're heavily focused on, like I'm gonna be a lawyer. This is what I'm gonna do. What do you feel like was your biggest takeaway from those years?
Originally, from like eighth grade onwards, I really wanted to be a senator. I really thought that electoral politics was like the way I could help the most people. And I think my biggest takeaway is probably that for me, I had found the best way to help people that I found personally is actually through way more grassroots things like mutual aid, volunteering on a personal level in your city, showing up with money, like donating. So, for example, I worked in law and politics all throughout college. And then a year and a half after college, I was a paralegal for the Civil Rights Division at the U.S. Attorney's Office. And while I was there, it felt like I was doing really good work, but it felt very kind of stilted by bureaucracy as it is. And so since starting Saint Street, monthly, we've done different donations to just like organizations that either something really timely is happening or just something that I really care about. People will like send in organizations that they care about, which is really awesome. So I personally have found that I've been able to help my community on like a much bigger scale, doing it on a more grassroots level. So I think I've learned that at least in my life, the way that I hope to manifest that will be not through like being a senator, but instead being just like a very active community member and someone that can show up with the finances to like fund aid projects and things like that.
I think we underestimate often how much being able to build up your life and have the funds and the time and the ability to actually invest into something and sponsor something, like exactly this gonna probably have much more of an impact that you can actually see yourself versus, I mean, I'm not saying, that the paralegal way is not the way to make a change, but I agree with you as well on the point that it feels much more small and you don't really see the final results as much versus you really fund something and you really invest your time into a project. So I love how you continue your passion for helping and supporting people, but in your own way. And that's even more beautiful and amazing that you do that.
I really want to make it a bigger thing within Saint Street, but haven't figured out how. But I know that I want to keep that passion of mine hasn't gone away, even though I've been baking for about just over a year now, so full time. So I'd like to figure out ways to work that in even more than just donating. So hopefully that's on the forefront in the coming years.
How did you pick up baking? So you're in college, you're on your politics and law track. And how did this come around that you realized, okay, actually, this is still there. I want to keep doing this. And how did the start of Saint Street Cakes came together?
So I was living with my three best friends right off campus, and it was like our first off campus apartment. And it was still pretty deep into COVID. It was almost exactly, is it 4 years? Yeah, almost exactly 4 years ago. One of our friends was turning 21, one of my roommates. And because it was still, we couldn't throw parties, we couldn't really do anything. So we planned to like safely go out to dinner. And because we couldn't throw a party, I just wanted to make her the coolest birthday cake ever. And since I had taken that class when I was 9, I made my friend Elle's birthday cake every single year. It was like a tradition for us. I continued baking a lot, but I made my friend Juliet's 21st birthday cake, and all of my friends were kind of like, where did you learn that? Like, where did that come from? And I really enjoyed making it. And so we had all posted pictures of it on Instagram and like happy birthday, Juliet, with her blowing up the candles. And so many people reached out to us to say, where did you get that cake? That's really cool. And so immediately I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll just start selling cakes on the side. Like that could be kind of fun. I had been looking for maybe a job at a bakery or something on the side to make money. I was on co-op at the time. So I was like not that busy and wanted to make some extra cash. So I started selling cakes out of my apartment. At first just to friends for like $30 a cake, just to kind of build up like a gallery of some sort that people could order from. And then I posted to like the South End community board saying, hi, I make cakes. I'm calling it Saint Street Cakes, which I named it that because I lived on St. Botolph Street. And after posting them on social media, it kind of went viral after a few and then started getting orders from mostly people that I didn't know. So it kind of took off by itself. Never meant for that to happen, quite honestly. Did not think it would happen. Never planned for that. So yeah, but immediately my friends and roommates, like after the first few cakes, they were immediately like, you should just do this. Why would you try to become a lawyer? Just sell the cakes. Clearly you love it. And I was like, no, I'll do it when I'm 60. I feel very privileged and lucky that I was able to do it full time a lot earlier than that.
What was the timeline between you doing this first cake for your friend Juliet and then to people that you don't know reaching out to you and really this whole thing blowing up?
I think the first cake I made for a stranger, I'm like trying to think of who it possibly was. I made my friend Natasha's birthday cake, which was the first cake that I made, which went like completely viral. Juliet's cake got a lot of love from like people that we know, but Natasha's cake, I made a video on TikTok, which I didn't have previous to this, but my roommate Sarah said, you need to start posting these on TikTok. I think you'll get business from it. And that one immediately, I remember getting 1,000 views, which now is not a lot for my content. Like I feel very lucky I get a good amount of views, but it hit 1,000 views and I was like, I can't believe 1,000 people have seen. I remember so distinctly that feeling. But it was a vegan cake that had frogs on top and they were sitting under these little umbrella mushrooms.
I think I've seen that.
Probably. It was one of the really early ones and I've done a lot. People still will send me that cake and be like, can you make this? And so after that, a lot of people started reaching out, which that was at the end of January. So immediately, pretty much, I think as of probably April of 2021, I'm guessing was when I started making cakes mostly for people I don't know, probably half and half. And then now it's pretty rare that someone I know is getting a cake and it's always a really fun treat. I say pretty rare. It's at least once a month, but
I love how you had your supporting team. So, like one of your friends / roommates saying, post it there. This is good. This is amazing. I think you should do it. From your family when you were early on supporting all your creative endeavors to then your closest friends and roommates just being physically there and telling you, wait, keep going. This is good. This is something. So it's really cool to have this kind of supporting team right off the bat. And that is really, really fast to the moment you just did it for fun to then going viral to then actually people you don't know reaching out. This is really, really cool. Very fast timeline of everything.
It was very bizarre. I used to meet people in front of Five Horses, the farmer's horse, the coffee shop on Mass Ave. That's where I used to do deliveries. So it's like in my college apartment with other girls I lived with. I'm like, I'm not going to send strangers to my house. Yeah, it was really bizarre. I didn't know what to do with it. So would just meet people outside the coffee shop and it was so strange. And now it's what I do full time.
I think it would be so fun for you at some point in the future to revisit the spots. This is where I did my deliveries because I didn't want to send strangers to my home.
Exactly. It was such a special time and such a special apartment that it started in. Like my roommates and I and all of our friends that spent a lot of time there still look back on it so fondly. It was 183 St. Botolph. It's I look back on it. We got the COVID deal on a brownstone. It was the most beautiful apartment. It was really great. Some of my favorite times ever were there and in front of farmers while at Northeastern. It was really great.
I think particularly COVID times when you really spend a lot of time at home with the people you live, and it's such a special time. Same, I didn't create anything big during COVID, but it's still like a very special moments to, yes, like have a few people over, do your little gatherings, a little dinners and stuff like that. So I think it's a very special time, and it's really cool that this is also the time where St. Three Cakes was born. What is something about the beginning that is maybe surprising, or something that people wouldn't expect, or you yourself maybe wouldn't expect about the whole beginning journey?
I'd say I was really surprised how many people immediately believed in me so much. I was very surprised, and it was so kind how much support that I had. I knew I had amazing friends. Like, that's not shocking. I feel so lucky throughout my entire life. Like, I've had the best support system. But pretty immediately, my roommates were like, you can build a business out of this. Why wouldn't you do this full time? Like, you should do it. And my family was also like pretty encouraging. You should build this as much as you can. Yeah, I think I was surprised how much people believed in someone who had no professional baking experience, no professional like media creation experience, but saw how much I loved it and were immediately very supportive. So I wasn't surprised that I had a supportive community. I think I was surprised how much people were showing up with that support actively, of like reposting my cakes, or my friend Sarah posted it to her sorority like group, and genuinely for the first year, I think I made every single girl's birthday cake in Sigma Kappa at Northeastern. So like the community really showed up in a huge way. Just people at Northeastern, friends and family from home. So that was really like a very sweet surprise.
I think it's the best indicator of that you're doing something right if you're yourself are super excited, but also people around you are super excited and actually want a part of that and want a cake from you. And that's really, really cool that that was the beginning. So how did it go from starting and doing it in your apartment to now being it a full-time thing? Because you did say that in between you were a paralegal at some point. So what was the journey from pretty much 4 years ago to now that you're doing this, you said, for over a year full-time?
In college, I was taking, I think, 4 to 8 orders just on weekends. I was always very serious about my studies, and still, like, I love academia, and like I'm such a nerd about classes, and really wanted to make sure that it wasn't interrupting my class time at all. So I would take limited orders on weekends, and still, I mean, for one person, 4 to 8 on a weekend when I'm taking classes full time is a lot. But I just continued that pattern. So I moved to New York in July of 2022, right after graduation, and immediately started making New York cakes. So luckily, making cakes in Boston and having like a social media following, a lot of people that followed were from New York. And a lot of people that had ordered in Boston were college students that moved to New York as like a super popular kind of path. So I already had somewhat of a following in New York, and I immediately started working. So I moved in July and started working at the U.S. Attorney's Office mid-July. It was my first co-op, and I went back there. And I really, really enjoyed it. It was a very busy job. I was sometimes traveling to Seattle for work and was like in the office every day. And I just kept making cakes on weekends. And by this point, I was also taking social media collabs. So it was a lot of collaborations with brands I really cared about that I don't think knew I was a full-time paralegal. That was kind of the funniest part, was towing the line between like, I'm a very professional influencer and baker, and then I'm like at work in a suit in court. I was living two lives at once, and I very much had two full-time jobs. So I just kept doing cakes, and more orders kept coming in. And it came to a certain time where I was rejecting most orders. I was still only able to make at most 8 to 10 a week, just because I had kind of like streamlined my process. But I was in a kitchen that was genuinely, I think, 6 feet by 6 feet. Like, it was a tiny Manhattan kitchen. And I remember one morning, I think it was a few months before I quit my job, so probably August, I was doing a collaboration with Tory Burch, and it was pretty turnaround. They're like, her birthday's in 3 days. We really want to do this social media thing with you. It was in the middle of the week. So I made the cakes at night after work. And then at 6 a.m., I woke up to shoot all of the content. And my roommate, Andrea, at the time, who also worked for the U.S. Attorney's Office, like came down, we're ready to commute to work. And she's like, did you just make that just now? I'm like, yep, let's go to work. And so it really was two full-time jobs. And I realized at a certain point in August of 2023 that I was turning down an impossible amount of orders. I remember showing my friend Jeremy like my order form, and all of the orders were red. I highlight something green when I can accept it. And so it was just I'm turning down so much. He's like, if you were able to accept all these orders, would you not be making more than you are as a paralegal? And I hadn't thought about it that way. So I started calculating it and realized I would be making about the same, if not a little bit more, if I was able to accept all those orders. And so I started thinking about kind of whether or not I wanted to go to law school. And I knew I wanted to go to law school, but more than that, whether I wanted to be a lawyer. And once it came down to it, I talked to a lot of the attorneys I worked with who were extremely supportive. A few of them even reached out and were like, I want to invest in your company when that's the time. So many of them were saying, go follow that, like make the cakes. I think I really appreciated their advice because many people will tell you, don't go to law school unless you want to be a lawyer, unless you like know you want to be a lawyer. And so a lot of these attorneys were saying, if you have any other passion that you possibly want to explore for a job, do that before law school. Because you can always go to law school in your mid 30s. You can follow the baking dream for 10 years, it might not work out, and go to law school. Like you can always do that. You can't become a lawyer and then also, like, it's not going to keep working. So in August, I decided I would be leaving the US Attorney's Office, and my last day, I think, was September 29th of 2023. It was a pretty quick turnaround, and it took a lot of people. I knew I wanted to, I think. It took a lot of people telling me. It took a lot of external validation, quite honestly, to do it. It felt like I had put so much into my career in law. Like I had really, really great internships. I had really great grades. I loved it. Like I'm still in contact with a lot of my professors. It was such a fun time. But I think while I would have loved law school, I wouldn't have loved being a lawyer. I wouldn't have gotten to be as creative as I wanted to. I also think after Roe v. Wade was overturned, most of what I want to do, I think there's a lot of need for lawyers in that field. But I think what I want to do is do a lot of the mitigating process. So instead of fighting a Supreme Court that is just entirely against me, my community, everything I believe in, and a constitution that doesn't support us, I instead, I think, want to focus on supporting the people that need that help. And there's a lot of other people, I think, doing the legal work that needs help. But I realized I really wanted a creative career as well. Yeah, so I moved into doing cakes full time, started taking every order I got, and from there it's kind of skyrocketed. I moved to Brooklyn that December, so December 2023. And the first week that I moved, I had the SNL job. So that kind of came at random. It was like an email I got over Thanksgiving. And so I literally moved, and then that week was making 30 cakes or so for Saturday Night Live. So it immediately felt really empowering and successful that right after quitting my job, which was such a jump and so scary and terrifying, honestly, that I was getting really great jobs that I cared about. So yeah, it was a long and weird path. Yeah, but it was a good one.
I think this path is honestly perfect and amazing in the way everything happened. And I feel like it's also when we make hard decisions that feel very challenging, but you know deep down this is the right thing. I feel like oftentimes it happens that validation comes in form of, for example, you going to a different place. You, I guess now you have a bigger kitchen, right? So you can actually do all those things
Definitely.
that you did all your orders, and then coming this very big job that we'll talk also about in a second. That was such a good, like, yes, I'm on the path, this is gonna work out. And I also love that actually you speaking to the lawyers at your job, they were also super super encouraging. I think that's also really beautiful because I feel like a lot of people forgo that, and they have this passion. Probably they had a lot of the fire within them was just like, yes, Morgan, please do it. Do the cakes, we believe in you. From the first cake you did for Juliet to then continuously do it very consistently on the weekend to also prove that it's not just like a trend, it's not just a seasonal thing. It's actually like people always want cakes and they want your cakes, and you actually still enjoy it, not just for a few days, for you, weeks, for you, months, but you actually enjoy doing it. So I think it's really beautiful how in a way you always consistently did it for a long time to then realize, wait, actually, yes, like this is a resounding yes, this is not just a phase. As you were saying, that a very big component of your business right now is also the video component, right? Like, so you record, you do videos on TikTok and Instagram, and you share the cakes. Is it also how most of your clients find you, I guess, through that? And from there, did it come naturally for you to record and film and combine kind of this business side with the creative baking side, or how was that?
A few years ago, I would say about a year and a half in, I was really curious as to how everyone was finding me. Honestly, I had no idea. They'd just fill out my form. So I added a little section of my form that said, like, how did you find out about me? Most of it is through Instagram. which I find fascinating. I have a lot more followers on TikTok, which I think people just kind of throw follows out a lot more liberally. Um, but I have like 95,000 followers on TikTok and 14,000 on Instagram. So pretty different, but most of my business is actually coming from Instagram, which is encouraging considering TikTok might not be around. So yeah, most people definitely come from Instagram. But the good thing about cake, I think why it's my favorite thing to bake is that it's like a shared good. So no matter what, it's being shared by multiple people. So a lot of it's also word of mouth. It's like if my cake's at a party and someone likes it, they'll ask where it's from. So a lot of people will say like, I've had your cakes before, or word of mouth. And in terms of sharing the video content and creating it, it definitely did not come naturally to me. I think the creative aspects did, and like putting it to music and making little scripts felt very natural. But the idea of following TikTok trends and things like that, I didn't have TikTok before I started St. Street, so I really didn't know what I was doing. But I think the learning curve was pretty fast. I had been on camera, I did like the news in high school and things like that. And I used to sing a lot, so I would like perform on stages. So I would say it wasn't nerve wracking for me to be on camera, but filming myself felt very awkward. And also, taking pictures of cakes is so oddly specific. It's really easy to just like, if you just point your camera to cake and just like take a picture like this, like just down pointing at it, no matter what, the cake will look kind of weird. Like it won't look perfectly cylindrical, it'll just look odd. So I think learning how to photograph cakes in a flattering way, like from far away enough and not to have it distorted by the weird iPhone camera, was definitely a process too. My sister is a professional photographer, so a lot of it was also asking her, like, how should I edit this to make it look okay? And now it comes super natural. It's like I'm able to edit and send out video content super, super quickly. So definitely a fast learning curve.
When you were saying word of mouth, I was thinking, yeah, literally word of mouth. Like they try, tastes good, looks good. They wanna running from just making cakes, right? Just like making it as a baker somewhere, or I don't know, like making it every now and then, to actually having it as a full-on business with so many orders that you have right now. How was for you combining the business side and the creative side of it? So you were saying, for example, the filming part that was odd at first, but then you learned it pretty quickly. But the aspects of really running a business with all the back end things that come alongside, how did this come for you? Was it also something natural, something you learned pretty quickly, or have you also reached out to people in your community for help?
I think that part honestly came the easiest. I've always been a really organized person, and organizing a group or getting people together or sending emails, like administrative stuff, I just had a lot of experience with. I was like on the executive board of a bunch of clubs in college. And so sending out like emails, like send in your orders, guys, or creating a form or doing things like that was really familiar to me. And sending professional emails was super familiar to me. So getting to like talk to businesses, talk to clients in like a professional way, I honestly think I had to scale it back a little bit because so much of the communication I was doing or had experience in was like, I'm communicating with a circuit judge. Like, this is intense, to being like, hey, like, your cake's ready. Like, it was such a different tone of voice. So I would say that was probably like, I need to look back at my old emails and see how professional they sounded. So I think that was probably a pretty big learning curve. But apart from that, the administrative side came really easily. And I think specifically for me, having administrative organization just keeps me very sane and make sure the end product is there. I think, like most creative people, I am a victim of procrastinating constantly. I will sometimes do things until the last minute, and I work really well under pressure. It's like a brutal combo. Is I do the best work when I'm under pressure. And I was listening to one of your podcast episodes, the most recent one actually. We were talking about like the time rebelling thing, and I was like, I so resonate with that. And so I think that having the administrative background and knowing like there's a person I'm communicating with who needs this cake at 2 p.m. on Friday um, is a really, it makes sense in my brain to work that way. And so the administrative idea of knowing that someone's expecting an output or like a deliverable, to speak in the more administrative term, makes sure that I get that work done. So I'm really happy it came easy to me. I think that for a lot of creatives is the most difficult part. And for me, that seemed like one of the easiest.
I find it very interesting. Businesses of creative people, I think things as like getting into a flow state and being so into something that you can do it for hours and hours and hours and hours and end. But then certain things that are less exciting might be something a lot of people procrastinate on, but we'll get to this in a second. I wanted to ask you, for the past year and a half of you doing this full time, what was your biggest lesson and takeaway? Maybe about yourself, about the world, about your business, about anything at all?
I would say the biggest thing I've learned is that it's very rewarding to take the jump. I think that a lot of people are on a path where they're able to kind of take a creative jump and don't, and might never. And so I have experienced like a lot of difficulty in owning and running a business for a year and a half, like in a real way. But I think I have led such a more fulfilling work life by doing that. And so I think I would just be extremely encouraging to others of like taking the creative jump, because I've just learned that it, for me, I feel very lucky that it's worked. But I think for many people, I think following your creative dream can work. As long as obviously you're doing it in a sustainable way. I realized I could make a similar amount of money. And so that was a huge privilege. But I think, yeah, I've learned that there was extreme reward in taking that jump. And I was very, yeah, would be very encouraging of that.
I feel like oftentimes you have to know how to do it exactly. Like probably if you would have decided that moment in January of 2021, that's it. I'm quitting college. I'm quitting everything. I'm just going to bake. Probably you would have been much more anxious about, is this going to be long-term financially rewarding for me? Like, will I enjoy this and so on? So of course, doing those things in a sustainable way, as you said, thinking that, does this work for me? Of course, this is a big leap I'm taking, but if I deep down know this is going to work out and there are first signs of this is going to work out, I think more people 100% are able to make their creative passions their careers, actually.
There's a big part of the deep down feeling that I think the signs for me needed to be so encouraging for me to take the jump, because I wouldn't have otherwise. But I think I just read Candace Nelson's book, who started the like really popular American cupcake chain Sprinkles. She took the jump when she was let go from her finance job, had no professional baking experience, was let go after the recession, and was like sitting on her couch like, well, instead of applying for another finance job I'll be let go from, I'll go to pastry school. So there's also taking the jump when you have absolutely no reason to believe it'll work, and sometimes can be successful there too. So I think listening to your brain is the biggest thing of like, if your brain will let you take the jump before you have reasons, it's sometimes worth doing that too. It might work out, but also being prepared for it not to, I think, is equally as important.
Yeah, for sure. But I think in the example you said, I'm sure that she could have, after culinary school, if the cupcakes wouldn't have not worked out, she could go back and get another finance job. So I think giving yourself the options, but yes, for sure. I feel like sometimes without any signs, but just knowing, having the feeling it's going to work is the time to do it. And the signs from outside are very, very supportive and very validating for sure. I had a similar story to that for myself, but they look very different for everyone. Right now, how would you say your day looks like? This morning, you were at a wedding and then you had another cake to make, and now we're recording here. So what is an example of things that you do in a day?
So during the week, it is very, very different each and every day. Some days there's a random, like today is a Monday and there's a wedding tonight. So sometimes it'll be like a big wedding delivery in the morning on weekdays. Sometimes I would just be doing administrative work on weekdays. I would say the only consistent schedule I have is Friday through Saturday. So I only take orders Wednesday through Sunday. So Monday and Tuesday are technically shut down for administrative days, but I'll take cakes for like friends and family, for corporate stuff. So for example, today I woke up, completed this wedding cake and delivered it to the venue, and then got back here and I have a cake that someone's picking up around 4, so tossed that in the oven. All of my cakes are super fresh. So a big part of it is I'm usually baking them the day before. And that part's not procrastination. That part's just, it's really good. But so I sat down for a little bit of administrative work while the cake was baking, and now I'm on this lovely podcast with you. I'll decorate a cake, and then it's pretty random. I do try to work in the most kind of self-care things Mondays and Tuesdays. So like tonight I'll go to a yoga class. Tomorrow morning I'll go swimming. So like there's different things that I try to work in on the days that I am not constantly working, but I don't think I've had a legitimate day off in months, which is bizarre. And I'm excited for when I do move to the next step of having a storefront, for that to feel more consistent. I know that this day I'm prepping all of the cakes, and this day is when I accept custom orders. And I think that will be the privilege of, I think, stepping up, is definitely having a more consistent schedule. Right now, it does feel all over the place in like a way that's not sustainable. Like it's sustainable for now. When people talk about, I think when people write their autobiographies and they're like writing about the period where they were grinding every single day and they don't know how they did it. I think I'm in the I don't know how I did it phase right now a little bit, and I think I will be for a while. Where it's different every day, and I'm kind of welcoming that. Friday through Saturday, I'm pretty much making cakes 8 to 4, and then cleaning 4 to 5, and then most of the time I have like my nights off on weekends, or I'm prepping cakes for the next day. So it's a lot of dealing with frosting Friday through Sunday.
That's the reality of building a business, especially a creative one when it's, mostly relying on you. It is a lot of just grinding at the beginning. This is the part of it, and I think it's having a vision for the future and why you're doing this. I think is really, really exciting also, and I guess also what is powering you through, right? Or what is your power? Like what powers you through those really busy days?
You say that there's an expectation that someone will get this cake they've dreamed of for a long time and paid a lot of money for. I think it's the expectation of the client is honestly what's getting me through, is knowing how happy it makes them and how happy it makes me to have like a really great creative output. But I think just knowing that people are depending on me for a celebration of some sort, I feel so lucky that my job is people are celebrating. Like it's the most exciting job ever, no matter what. Even if it's a cake that's just for fun, it's something that people are sharing with their community, with their friends, and it's always in celebration of something. And so I know it's bringing joy to people, and in doing that, it's bringing joy to me. So, I mean, I'll be on my feet. There are some weeks where literally I'm working like 12 to 15-hour days in a row, and it's okay. I don't think it's not sustainable long term. And I'm trying to do less of that, trying to cap some orders in the meantime. But I do really enjoy it still. I don't think there's been a point where, obviously, I'm physically tired and emotionally like I need to take a nap, but the actual making the cakes I still enjoy so much. It's so satisfying and fun for me that it's also just it's doing something I really enjoy doing, even if I'm exhausted while doing it.
Honestly, the best indicator that you are on the right path in life when you're so excited. I love that you said, I mean, cakes are always for celebrating something big, something small. I don't know, wedding, birthday, a milestone, whatever. It's always for something joyful and exciting, so people already arrive in a yay stage, and then your cake is even amplifying this and having it as a shared good. So even though it's one person getting the cake, they will share it with people. You just bring joy to people, so that brings in return joy to you while making it, thinking about the joy that is gonna create such a great business to do, and yeah, just bringing joy to people, delicious joy, and pretty looking one.
One of the most common questions I get is like, are you so sad that people are cutting up the cakes? Or like during the SNL performance, Olivia Rodrigo destroyed them. And the most common question I was getting from people like, was it so sad to see them destroyed? And for me, it's not. It's like whatever use that they're being used for, whether that editorial extreme version of like tearing apart a cake, I've made a few cakes that's the purpose for them, or people enjoying them. I know that it's temporary, and it's this like temporary celebratory thing. You can take pictures of it, but it is like it's finite. And I think that's part of the extra special part of it, is making something so intricate and special. And it's just this finite moment that you have to be present with to enjoy it, I think is like one of my favorite parts. Until people started asking, would have never thought to be like upset at cutting into it. It's my favorite part.
In a way, it's like contemporary art, like contemporary in the direct meaning of this word, that is meant to be, eaten or cut or destroyed. But that's really cool. What would you think were your biggest growth moments or exciting moments for you, your business?
I would say Saturday Night Live was a huge game changer, honestly. There was a lot of press that came from it. I got to be featured in New York Magazine and the Boston Globe. And at the same time, I had made this series. I don't know what made me do this. I was exhausted from moving. SNL genuinely started the day after I moved into my new apartment. So boxes were packed. My boyfriend was unpacking my kitchen, and I'm on my way back to Manhattan to bake these cakes. But I figured I need to document every day of this. And I hadn't signed an NDA, but it was a very secret project. And so I was just doing tiny hints of like, here's day one of prepping for this very secret thing, and not giving any identifying details, but building up hype for it and then it happening. That was really extremely fulfilling. And I don't know numbers wise. I know that it built my following a decent amount on Instagram. I assume TikTok too, but it was just personally really fulfilling. I don't look at the numbers that much. I do know that that's where my business comes from. Yay. But I don't remember exactly. I just know that a lot of people that I know and people that had already followed me were reaching out like, oh my God, I've been following the series all week and I was watching SNL, immediately realized they were your cakes. And so that was exciting too, of people not only seeing that that was my work because I said it, but people individually watching Saturday Night Live and being like, Morgan made those. I recognize those cakes. That was cool. And so from there, I honestly just think I've gotten to work with a lot of different creative directors on more like editorial projects. And that has been, I would say, one of the most fulfilling things is for print, getting to make a cake that's like destroyed for a shoot or a cake that's just in a shoot or the subject of a photo shoot, I think is so much fun. And it's really exciting when a creative director will reach out and say, like, trust me with their vision is extremely fulfilling. And so I got to do a photo shoot with Mac for their, I think it was 50-year anniversary for High Snobiety magazine. And it was this like very, very tall cake. And there's a model with Mac, extremely cool makeup, like digging into it and biting into it. And that's still just one of my favorite things I've ever done. Not because it's Mac and that's a huge name, like that's very exciting, but just because having my cakes get to be a part of someone else's art is so fulfilling, and knowing that they trusted me in some way with that vision. And I think also the longer I've existed as a brand and as a company, I've built kind of a like creative language that I think people understand. And so people oftentimes will send me an order and will say like, hey, I want it to be purple, but do whatever you want. Here's a cake that I like. And so there's a lot of creative freedom in what I do now that's becoming more and more common, which I really, really love. And I feel very empowered and trusted by a lot of my clients that are just like my cakes and want something, but entirely trust me. Sometimes people will literally just say, creative freedom, do whatever. And it's so much fun. And so that's been really, really empowering and exciting too.
That's really beautiful. Yeah, to know that people trust and they just want a piece of your work, no matter they know it's going to be great. Looking into the future, you're opening a storefront, so that's very, very exciting. What is the whole vision for that? I would love to hear that.
I just found a space in Fort Greene in Brooklyn. It's close to me. It's like when people ask me my favorite area of Brooklyn or where I want to open, it's exactly right where this bakery is. And so I came upon it, and I'd been looking for months and kind of just like looking on the side. And then for the past 2 months looking seriously, and everything was just, I didn't even know what my budget was, but I knew it was out of budget. And like genuinely, it'd be 300 square feet for $12,000. Impossible. Real estate in New York is crazy. Commercial real estate is just going, I don't know how people without a fully functioning following already are opening restaurants and bakeries. Quite honestly, it's like such an insane barrier of entry. So I found this space that was what I thought could be in my price range. Met with my accountant and he was like, yep, looks like it's in your price range. Did a lot of financial planning with specifically my parents who run their own businesses and I know are just very like, have done it very successfully. So I showed them my business plan and they kind of helped me parse out some things. But I mean, at the same time, my parents don't know how much a commercial oven costs. So they're there for moral support and for a lot of like support with the build out and things, like things that I'll physically need. But yeah, it's been quite the process. So I found that location. Hopefully I'm signing the lease this week. I made an offer that they accepted and I'm touring it with an architect. There's a lot that I like didn't realize I'd have to do. An architect? So I'm touring it with the architect this week, who I love. And so we're gonna go in. I'm touring it with the architect and the previous tenant just to be like, okay, here's this wall that I'd like to take down, or down in the basement, I heard this pipe leaks. What can we do about that? So, you know, it's not perfect. I don't think any space would be, but the next kind of huge thing for me is that build out process, which I hope to document in a similar way that I did the Olivia Rodrigo thing. I think would just be really fun. Right when I quit my job, people were saying like, are you opening a storefront? And I knew right away it wasn't happening. Like I still had a roommate. I was living in Manhattan. I wanted to try just doing it for at least a year. And so I said like maybe in 2 to 3 years. And now it's been just about a year and a half, just under that. And I'm hopefully like getting the keys to the space. Like it's happened way faster than I thought. So yeah, it's just been a crazy process, and that's kind of what's next. Is opening.
Honestly, I'm getting goosebumps listening to this. Like, yes, a physical bakery, and I'm so
I
excited
know.
to see.
Weird. It's great. I keep just walking by it. I went to a movie with my friends last night, and the bakery's around the corner. And so I was like, guys, do you want to see it? And we like went over and walked over to it. I like made one of my friends meet me there the other night to just show him, and it's been really, really exciting. And this specific space I feel so good about. Right when I toured it, I was like, it's unbelievable. It's my first 5 years opening, you know? I don't have the resources to open in one of those $12,000 spaces. Luckily, I found something that's still ungodly expensive, but somehow within my budget, and I'm very excited.
No, this is amazing. I love this. I'm excited to see the documentation process. For some reason, those videos of people renovating their houses, building their storefronts and stuff like that are one of my favorite things to watch. So I feel like they're so fun. It's like, yes, she has a wall now. Exactly. She fixed her pipe. Yes.
So invested in it. So I'm very excited to be like, just making it feels very silly, but making content on it. And specifically, I'm moving over to YouTube for a lot of longer form content. So I'll be filming also for YouTube, which is entirely new to me. So a lot's changing right now, which is exciting and scary.
I love this, but this is a lot of growth. Like, they really, for sure. I mean, I can see how, this is scary because it's a very big move.
Yeah.
But I think it's only gonna go up from there, and it's only gonna get more amazing. And for the place itself, will it be just a bakery? Like you buy, you go, or will it be like a sit down place also, or what's the plan for that one?
So I'm planning on still selling my custom cakes. So I think probably just during weekends, still taking custom orders, just because that's my main thing. But also, I'm so excited to have a storefront because I want people to walk up and be able to buy a slice of cake. So that's a huge thing for me that I've thought forever. Is I'm so sad that I don't have this street notoriety of like someone's walking by and like, that's cute. Like if you're not on social media, you probably won't know about my cakes. And so I'm very excited for it to be that. I also will have like a small sitting space. I do want the most people as possible to be able to fit in there. I think one of the biggest things for me since I've been talking about a theoretical up until now storefront is having it be a place where people can gather. I personally love hosting people for dinner parties and things, and just love having people over and creating a space and an environment. And so I would love for people to be able to come and hang out there. I plan on teaching classes in the shop too. And so I'd love for, people to be able to buy a slice of cake and hang out with their friends and sit in the shop. And it's also right around the corner from this little park where they just have tables and chairs set up every day. So very convenient. So definitely also going to be a walk-in space. I've always dreamed of having like live music in the space, like whether it's a little guitarist or something, I don't know. So people being able to come and say like, I really want to host a like little music night here. I really want to host a little like poetry night here. I really hope that eventually that can happen. Have it be like a community space as much as it is just like a bakery. So yeah.
I love this. Honestly, I think whenever I'm in New York, I'll come. This is gonna be my new favorite space.
Come by, I'll give you some.
Yes, I would love to. I would love to come. No, honestly, I think it sounds like a magical space, combining this gathering, this people aspect, and of course, still your custom orders, but also, giving people a chance to try a slice, like if they're not right away buying the whole cake, but like, allowing them to purchase that and also have the park. I think it's especially in the summer. Wow.
I've also been like developing recipes for a few years just for the bakery case. So in addition to just like slices of cakes, there'll also be cookies, like cinnamon rolls and like jam rolls of different kinds, brownies, like a bunch of different stuff. And so I'm also super excited to be able to explore that a lot more. I'm a super creative baker, and cake doesn't allow that much creativity apart from the decoration. Flavors, but people mostly go for the classics. So I'm excited to have some of my crazier stuff be on display as well. I think that will be really fulfilling.
Yes, that is really cool. Offering more different things. But also, I guess that would also mean you would have to hire people, right? Or will you still be able to do everything yourself?
Definitely need to hire someone. I think I'm planning to hire one person for the opening, like one person to kind of train and assist for a while. And then I think at some point in the summer, hire a second person. We'll see how all the timing works out. I mean, construction, I still have no idea how long that will take. So we'll see.
It's such a big thing going from the phase you were saying you're in right now of working a lot every day, putting in, and then being able to hire someone and grow. And I feel like these are very, very exciting, very big milestones to experience and to be like, wow, like now I actually get to train someone how to do the things I
Yeah.
do and be here part of the time. So I'm not here the entire time. And that's super, super beautiful. And I'm super, super happy for you that this is what you're stepping into.
Thank you.
Now I wanted to do a few like quick questions for you to answer whatever comes to your mind. So first of all, who inspires you?
I think this is the hardest question ever.
Really?
Always. I think there's so many answers. So I'm going to get really specific and make it like a cake specific one. There's an Egyptian artist I love who's like, she's lived in New York for a while. Her name's Layla Gohar, and she has a store called Gohar World, but she's also like a creative curator and baker. And she inspires me because she has such a specific kind of look and very specific curation style and has created this awesome brand. And so I love all of her work. And she's super, super inspiring to me and just making a really, really specific creative language, kind of similar to what I was talking about before. So I love all of her work.
Now moving into this new chapters, what about everything that you do excites you the most?
I think getting to be creative every day is something that excites me so much, and I'm actively trying not to take for granted. I'm really trying to be super present with the fact that like I'm doing what I was hoping to do when I was 9 years old. I think is pretty uncommon for someone, especially like opening a bakery sounds like a job a 9-year-old says and then does something totally different, which is fine and cool. But I'm really trying to sit with the excitement of getting to like do arts and crafts for work. And obviously the administrative side takes up even more time and is very different from that, the arts and crafts, but getting to be creative is just so much fun. So I think that excites me a lot and keeps me excited.
Exactly. It does sound like something a 9-year-old would say, and everyone would be like, yay, let's go. But you are actually doing it, which is super, super cool. And how do you deal with the less exciting parts of running your own business?
Honestly, I think I'm still learning that approach. I managed to get it all done, and I would say that I'm able to keep up with everything just enough. But I really think developing a better routine, which I'm working on, has specifically helped of like waking up in the morning, specifically on weekdays, getting through my emails, accepting orders, to-do lists, I would say actually are probably my biggest thing. I just keep this little notebook on me at all times and will jot down like, I know I need to order new stickers, or I know I have this important email to respond to. So I'll jot that down, and being able to cross it off, I think mentally just places me in a place of like knowing I got that done. So for the administrative side, I have like the small everyday to-do lists, and then the bigger to-do lists, which are now like getting done, which is things like developing like an S corporation to be able to file my taxes differently, and hiring an architect and checking in with my accountant. So I think it's having like small to-do list, big to-do list is definitely very helpful. I think for someone who's, I wouldn't say scatterbrained, I'm very organized, but just has a lot to do. And making cakes is the more fun part. So I'll want to do that first, even if I should be doing the administrative stuff first. So the to-do list is super helpful.
I think a very big thing from what I got from you, sharing your story and how you did everything, I feel like consistency is a very big thing. Just like also consistently showing up for the things that you love, you need to do both of them. I think that's also a very, very big part that you just get used to it, like even the administrative things that are maybe less exciting in the moment, but it's just part of it. And just not getting attached to it, but just doing them. What is your word for 2025?
Someone asked me this last year. My friend Jake asked me like my 3 words for 2024, and it was so nice. And I honestly think it's the same this year. I'll just pick one of the 3. But I think that my word for this year is presence. I think being present, it's very easy for me to kind of often get lost in my phone, has been a huge thing that I'm trying to let go of a little bit more this year. I think for someone whose job hinges so much on social media, the constant scroll is something that I can definitely get lost in and kind of use as like market research, quite honestly, like keeping up with trends and things. I'll kind of use it as to spend more time on my phone. And so I think being more present with being thankful for what I'm able to do, being more present, just like not being on my phone. Even if I'm reading, I think that's a lot more presence and feeling in my body than like the scroll honestly is terrifying to me. So while I love social media and it's given me a lot, I do think that staying off of it, being present, and being just like present with friends and family, and present with myself is just my biggest thing I'm excited to do this year. One of my ways that I'm manifesting the word presence is I'm trying to write more letters this year. I feel like when I'm pretty bad at journaling, But in the same way that if there's someone on the other end, I feel not obligated, but I feel like, oh, someone could be waiting for this, or like this could do something for someone. That will motivate me to do something. So every time, I actually have them like right here. Every time I get like a postcard from a restaurant, which always in New York, they give you a postcard with a receipt almost every time. I'm just writing like little postcards to my friends. So every time I get one of these, I have to send it, is my New Year's resolution. And we're already 2 in. I like to explore restaurants a lot, so I have like a stack. But yeah, I think being present and using analog forms of media, I have like record player and books, and being able to like just sit and not throw my mind somewhere else.
Honestly, it's such a cool idea with the postcards. Every time you get it, you have to send it. In a way, it's the same with cakes, which you said that someone is waiting for it, someone is super excited, so you put your best towards it because someone is there. So same with postcards, someone will get it and be so excited.
Yeah, until you said that, I was like, I didn't realize. I do think I definitely have to do more things for myself. I think that's probably a slight flaw, but I'm like, if someone else needs it or someone else, it's for someone else. So I think part of the presence is also presence with myself and making sure I'm taking care of myself while all of this is.
Yeah, and especially such a big year with the storefront. I think honestly, I think your life would be so different in a year. Like so much will evolve and change. Like
Document this now because I'm like, this is such a big like purgatory, honestly, period of like, this is such a weird time. I'm like moving into a storefront, still taking orders, so definitely a funny and fun time to document this right now.
yeah, I'm so happy we're doing it now as well because I feel like honestly, I don't know, maybe in 3 to 5 years, you'll be like, yeah, so I have my opening my 20th storefront nationwide. I'm going international next year. Like,
I'd love a store in London one day. One day. Yeah.
yes, honestly, that would be amazing. That'd be really, really cool. I love that. But okay, so what advice would you give someone who is graduating university or maybe still in university who really wants to do what they love, but they don't know how to actually make it work and there is a lot of fear around it? What advice would you give to someone like that?
I would say, I think a lot of people say this and don't explain it. The just do it mentality, I do think is really like the taking the jump, the just doing it doesn't have to be huge. I think if you are like a fiber artist, you're really interested in like crocheting and knitting, but you work a finance job, any free time that you have, if you really love doing this, do it in your free time. It's like the only way that I was able to do it was I was working full time and had a very full schedule, was like, I was in an acapella group, I was doing a bunch of stuff, but in the tiny free time I had, I was making cakes. And so I think finding the time to do it, even if it's just for yourself at first, is the biggest thing of like, no matter what you do, have time. Like, even if it's the tiniest smidge, which is what I was dealing with for so long, you have a little bit of it that's for yourself. And if it's something that you love so much that really is for yourself, you'll find a way to do it during that time. And so I think sticking with it and being able to show up for yourself in that way, I think it's pretty easy to say, like, I just don't have time to explore the art that I love. And finding it in the tiniest ways, I think, is the biggest thing. Like, yeah, I think is probably my biggest tip is like, just find where you can do it and see if you can build upon it.
I agree 100%. If you can do it for 10 minutes somewhere in between. I think oftentimes, as you were saying, like with phone or different things, so like being present, your word of the year, we oftentimes don't realize how much time we do have. I agree that just if you want to crochet for 10 minutes a day and I don't know, maybe record it, share it with people, do it. You never know what's going to happen. So just do it 100%.
I hate to say that the whole like waking up early and drinking a lot of water and working out thing is true. It so is. As much as I even am like, but when someone's like getting up early and going on a walk, like that doesn't sound like I'm so tired and I so have to work. It does help. Like, as much as I am so wishing that there was a magical anything to not be the thing everyone says will help you, I do think that like immediately seeing the sun in the morning and drinking a lot of water, which are things I need to work on, they help. And I think that they set up your day to be able to have more time.
For sure. Also, a question that would be super, super interesting to look back in a few years. How many cakes do you bake per week currently?
This is fascinating. I'm currently making by myself in the very small kitchen, like 15, average 15 a week, sometimes 20 a week. Too many, I'm not sleeping. So I'd say 15 a week.
Okay, 15 a week. That's still a lot. That's still very a lot for you alone doing it. And as of people, how big is your team? So it's you, right? And sometimes people for help or?
Yeah, for big events, I'll usually like hire a friend to help me set up and pay them like what I would pay a professional assistant for the day. And that's a lot of fun to be able to like work with a friend and pay them good money. I think is awesome. But yeah, it's just me. So I think something useful also for young creatives is I share that it's me on social media. Like I do think most people that order my cakes know it's just me. Um, but I think professionally, on like a professional level, people do not think it's just me, and I think that's a really good thing. I think it makes people believing that I have a team behind me. I get paid a lot more. Like I really think that it's surprising that I've gotten the amount of following and collaborations and things that I have without a management team. I've received this tip and I haven't done it because I'm kind of scared. But a few of my friends in social media management have told me you should create a fake manager and CC them on all of your emails and give them a name. And so Jamie is their name. I haven't made an email for them because I'm terrified. But if I'm like in a meeting and at this point in my life need to like leverage, example, they say that their budget is way under what I need it to be because maybe they do think it's just me. I say I have to meet with like my manager Jamie and I'll get back to you. Like I will say honestly, even though it's just me, sometimes faking it until you make it, not a fan of lying, but of slightly fibbing to be able to be taken seriously, I think is huge. So it's just me. It's me and Jamie. Yeah, it's just me.
Also, I also heard about the tip of having a fake assistant, like being like, oh yeah, I don't know, like Jamie Jr. will take care of this and stuff like that. I feel like I also heard about this being a really good tip. You'll have Jamie and Jamie Jr., your manager and your assistant. Also super excited to look back at this question in a few years. And you'll have an actual Jamie. I'm sure you'll have an actual Jamie. Maybe you'll be the manager, but you have, a very good team. So you can be the Jamie. What message would you give to your younger self? Maybe to, I don't know, would you done anything differently? Would you done everything the same? Any encouragement, anything at all?
I think I wish that I took things less seriously, specifically in high school. In middle school, I think that I was taking myself extremely seriously, and I think that's both a good thing and a bad thing. Like, I wish I had more fun in high school. I was very focused on grades and very focused on like, I'm going to be a senator, so I need to do this and this and this and this and this. Really, yeah, it was just so focused on getting into a good college and going to law school and doing things like that. But I think I left a lot by the wayside of like being able to just kick back and have fun. Did not do a lot of that in high school. So I think specifically for like young adult Morgan, I would say take a breather, like have some fun. Anything that you're going through is going to pass. Like anything that I was going through at that time, it wasn't something unchangeable. Like it wasn't my health or it wasn't like things like that. And so I think with things that are not permanent roadblocks, being able to take a breath and just relax to get over them and relax and have fun, even when there's a lot of things to do in front of you, like becoming the senator of California one day, which isn't going to happen. I think just like having more fun and slowing down. I think I honestly felt like I was in my mid-20s until I'm now in my 20s. I feel younger than I did when I was 18, which is really bizarre. But I genuinely felt so, I've always been mature for my age and like I've always loved like old music and older books and things like that. And I think honestly I was a bit pretentious about it in middle and high school. Like I think because I felt so much older than I was, I just like took myself way too seriously. So I think calming down a little bit would be very helpful.
I love that you say you feel now younger than you did when you were 18. Because honestly, same. I feel like I was so like, but this is like no.
The whole world depends on this. It's like, girl, calm it down.
Yeah, no, you'll be fine. My last question would be, what is your message for your future self?
I think this is an odd one, but I think like, yay, you did it. Like, I do think no matter where I am in the next 3 years, I hope to be really proud of what I've done. And I don't think I hear that from myself regularly. So I hope me watching this in the future, wherever you are, whatever is going on and however big or small Saint Ruth has become, like, I'm proud of where I've ended up because I've already come this far. Like, I think I rarely am able to look back at what I've done and take any success from it. I still treat it as if it's like something kind of random that happened to me, even though I put in so much work for it. And so I think, yeah, just the confidence of like, you've done something really great. Yeah, I'd love for it to be like a keep pushing, but I honestly think what I probably need in 3 to 5 years is my 24-year-old self saying, like, you've gotten this far doing something that you love. And I've gotten this far right now doing something that I love. And so I'm telling both myself now and myself in a few years, like, you've done it. You've done what you did not think you'd possibly be able to do when you were 18 and thought you'd be very possible to do when you were 9. So I think that's really exciting.
This is such a good message, and I had multiple times throughout you telling the story, I literally had goosebumps because I was like, "Wow, this is amazing! You actually did this and that and that." So even now that when you were saying this, so yes, you can be absolutely so proud of yourself, all the things that you did, and how fast and how much work, consistent work, and everything you put in, and honestly, yeah, I think with the storefront, it's only going up from here. It's happening. There's no other way.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. I expect that in 3 to 5 years, I am hoping for success. I'll just say that I expect it because I'm like accepting it now. I'm like, all right, I'm accepting that, or yeah, manifesting that hopefully. But it is very strange the time that we're in right now of just this is the biggest transition period I think of my life, like even bigger than quitting my job a year and a half ago. So maybe not actually. That was probably the biggest one. This is the second biggest though. So
But wait for it. Wait for it. You have it. Wait until you have the store, because then I think it's gonna be. It must be the biggest.
Yeah, who knows what that will be like. So we will see. It's kind of the whole thing. But yeah.
Amazing. And I'm super excited to see this. And thank you so much for sharing your story. And again, I think it's also, as you said, it's such a cool and pivotal point in your life where a lot of things are changing, really growing and really developing. So I'm very excited that we spoke now. And I'm very excited to see Saint Street Cakes grow. And I'll come visit in New York once once you have the store there. So yes, thank you so much. This was super inspiring and empowering to hear. And I feel like a lot of people out there who have different passions or things, or just maybe just saw in general you and your cakes, and this would be such a little biography up until now of you. So thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on this lovely podcast of yours. I'm feel very grateful to. This is the first podcast I've ever done, so that's also exciting. But I just feel very grateful to have been with you for the past like 2 hours. It's just been lovely to talk to you. So thank you.
Is there anything, any last thing, any parting thought, anything you want to share before we end?
I think just like being present with yourself is the biggest thing. I would say if I were to give parting advice for everybody, I think that's how the only way that I've gotten here is by being present and thinking about what I really need and being able to manifest that for myself by working hard, not just like writing it down in a book a bunch of times, manifestation, but actually being present with yourself and putting work into that and thinking about what makes yourself feel happy when you're most present. So yeah, my word of the year. I'm just going to keep drilling that in.
Also, my last parting thought, I think what you said about manifestation, not just writing it down, but also doing it. I think it's like the two components, right? Like you can be very present and you know what you have to do, but then without putting all the work in and then receiving the result, it's not just gonna happen by just writing it down, but consistently putting all of the action in and creating it. This is how you manifest and create the life that you want to do. And you're a super great example of this. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for listening to this episode, this interview with Morgan. Please share any takeaways, any insights, or anything that stood out to you. And I'll see you in another episode. Bye.